The cold Minnesota wind rattled the windows of my St. Paul apartment, a low howl that seemed to carry secrets from the riverfront. It was late November, and the days were shrinking, the sky bruised with heavy clouds by 4 in the afternoon. I'd been holed up for weeks, my laptop screen casting a pale glow across the cluttered desk where I spent most of my nights. My name's Brian, and I'd always been the guy who tinkered with tech, the one friends called when their Wi-Fi crapped out or their old PC started coughing up error codes. But that fall, I stumbled into something I couldn't fix, something that clung to me like damp rot. It started with boredom, the kind that creeps in when you're stuck in a routine. Work at the warehouse, beers with coworkers, then home to a silent apartment. I'd been scrolling YouTube, chasing rabbit holes of urban exploration videos and tech repair tutorials, when I landed on a clip about the deep web. The narrator's voice was hushed, urgent, like he was letting you in on a secret the world wasn't ready for. He talked about hidden sites, places you couldn't stumble across with a Google search, where people traded things that didn't belong in the light, hacked data, counterfeit cash, and sometimes files that were just wrong. Cursed files, he called them, videos or documents that carried something heavy, something that stuck with you. I laughed it off at first, but the idea burrowed into me. What was out there? What could be so bad that it had to hide in the dark corners of the internet? I wasn't a hacker, not by a long shot, but I knew enough to get by. I'd messed around with Linux distros and built a few PCs from scratch. So, one sleepless night, I downloaded Tor, the browser that promised a key to those hidden doors. The interface was clunky, slow, like wading through digital mud. I clicked through forums and wikis, most of them dead ends or scams, until I found a thread buried deep in a site that didn't even have a proper name, just a string of letters and numbers. The thread was about a file, a zip archive called Ritual 04. The poster claimed it was footage of a ceremony, something ancient, forbidden, recorded in a place no one could pinpoint. The comments were sparse, cryptic. One user wrote, "Watched it, don't." Another just posted a string of question marks. My pulse quickened. I wanted to know. Downloading the file took hours, the progress bar crawling as if the internet itself was reluctant to let it go. When it finally finished, I hesitated. My apartment was quiet except for the hum of the radiator, and the air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm. I double-clicked the zip. My screen flickered, then froze. The cursor spun, useless, and then, there it was. A face. Not a video playing, not a pop-up, just a still image that filled the screen. It was distorted, like a photo stretched and warped until the features were barely human. Eyes too large, a mouth that seemed to twist into itself. The worst part? It felt like it was looking at me. Not just at the screen, but at me. Like it knew I was there, alone in my apartment, my breath catching in my throat. I smashed the power button, and the screen went black. When I rebooted, my laptop was sluggish, like it was carrying a weight it couldn't shake. Files took forever to open, and every so often, the screen would flicker, showing fragments of that face, gone before I could be sure. I told myself it was a virus, something malicious buried in the file. I ran every antivirus I had, but they found nothing. The next day, I took the laptop to a guy named Mike, a tech I knew from the warehouse who did side gigs fixing computers. I didn't tell him about the face, just said I'd downloaded something stupid and needed a full wipe. He gave me a knowing look, like he'd seen this before, and promised to have it back in a couple of days. That should have been the end of it. I told myself I was done with the deep web, that I'd stick to YouTube and Reddit from now on. But the unease didn't leave. It wasn't just the laptop. It was the way my apartment felt different, like the air was thicker, the shadows sharper. I started noticing things, a faint hum in the walls that I'd never heard before, like a distant machine running. My phone would light up at odd hours, showing a blank notification screen. Once, I swore I saw something move in the reflection of my TV, a flicker of motion that vanished when I turned around. I told myself it was just paranoia, my brain spinning stories after that creepy file. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. Mike called me 2 days later, his voice tight. He said the laptop was clean, but he'd found something weird in the system logs, accesses to the webcam, dozens of them, all time-stamped after I'd dropped it off. "You got someone messing with you?" he asked. I laughed it off, said it was probably just a glitch, but my stomach twisted. I hadn't used the webcam in months. When I picked up the laptop, it ran fine, crisp and fast like it was brand new. Mike didn't charge me, just told me to be careful what I downloaded. I nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something he wasn't saying. Back home, I tried to settle back into my routine. Work was the same, stacking boxes, dodging forklifts, making small talk with guys who didn't care about my late-night internet dives. But the apartment felt wrong. The hum in the walls was louder now, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I started sleeping with the lights on, telling myself it was just to keep the shadows at bay. One night, I woke up to my laptop open on the desk, the screen glowing. I hadn't touched it before bed. The browser was open to a page I didn't recognize, a blank site with a single line of text. "You saw." My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. I slammed the laptop shut and unplugged it, shoving it into a drawer. The next day, I called my sister, Jen, who lived an hour away in Minneapolis. I didn't tell her everything, just enough. That I'd been messing with some sketchy sites and was feeling spooked. She laughed, said I was working too hard, that I should come stay with her for a weekend to clear my head. I wanted to, but the idea of leaving the apartment felt wrong, like I was abandoning something I needed to face. I told her I'd think about it. The hum grew worse. It wasn't just in the walls now. Sometimes I'd hear it in my headphones, a low pulse that didn't match the music. I stopped using my laptop, sticking to my phone, but even that felt tainted. Apps would open on their own, the screen scrolling to random pages, old forum posts, articles about missing people, grainy photos of places that looked vaguely familiar. One night, I found my phone open to a map, zoomed in on a spot just outside St. Paul, a patch of woods near the river. A pin marked a spot with no label, no explanation. I hadn't searched for it. I started taking walks to clear my head, sticking to busy streets where the noise of traffic drowned out the hum in my mind. But I kept noticing the same guy, a tall figure in a gray hoodie, always at the edge of my vision, lingering across the street or near the corner store. He never looked directly at me, but I could feel his presence, like a weight pressing against my back. Once I turned quickly enough to catch his face, but it was too shadowed, too vague, like the details slipped away the moment I saw them. I told myself it was just a neighbor, someone I'd never noticed before, but the coincidence gnawed at me. The more I tried to ignore it, the more the world seemed to conspire against me. At work, my scanner started glitching, spitting out random strings of numbers instead of barcodes. I'd find my locker open, my jacket rearranged, as if someone had been through it. I asked around, but no one had seen anything. My coworkers started giving me sideways looks, like I was the one acting strange. Maybe I was. I wasn't sleeping much, and the hum followed me everywhere now. A low drone that seemed to vibrate in my bones. I started checking the locks on my apartment door 3-4 times before bed, even though I knew it was pointless. Whatever was happening, Wang system, happening wasn't coming through the door. One evening I found a scrap of paper slipped under my welcome mat. It wasn't a note, not exactly. Just a crude sketch of a face, smudged and uneven, like it had been drawn in a hurry. It wasn't the face from the screen, but it was close enough to make my skin crawl. I tore it up and flushed it, telling myself it was just kids messing around, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was meant for me. I stopped going out after dark, sticking to the bright fluorescent lights of the warehouse or the diner down the street. But even there, I'd catch glimpses of that gray hoodie, always at a distance, always gone when I looked too long. The breaking point came on a Friday night. I'd been avoiding my apartment, staying late at the warehouse, but I couldn't keep it up forever. When I got home, the air felt wrong, stale, heavy, like someone had been there. My laptop was on the desk again, open, the screen showing that same distorted face. But this time, it wasn't still. The eyes moved, tracking me as I backed away. The hum was deafening now, vibrating in my chest. I grabbed my phone to call Jen, but the screen was frozen, showing that same map, the pin pulsing like a heartbeat. I didn't think. I just ran. Out the door, down the stairs, into the cold night air. I didn't stop until I was blocks away, my breath ragged, my hands shaking. I crashed at a diner, nursing a coffee until dawn, too scared to go back. When I finally did, the apartment was empty, the laptop closed, the hum gone. But the map was still open on my phone, the pin staring at me like an accusation. I moved out a week later, crashing with Jen until I could find a new place. I sold the laptop, got a new phone, cut every tie I could to that night, but I still feel it. Sometimes, that hum, faint, like it's waiting. I've driven past those woods near the river, the spot the map marked. It's just trees, a dirt path, nothing special. But I can't bring myself to stop, to walk in. I don't know what's out there, what I let in when I opened that file. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just me, my mind fraying under the weight of too many late nights. Or maybe it's still watching, waiting for me to look again. The summer I turned 16, my friends and I would pile into my bedroom in our small Ohio town, a place where the most exciting thing was the annual county fair. My house was old, with creaky floors and a faint smell of mildew that never quite left the walls, no matter how much Mom scrubbed. That night, the air was thick with the kind of heat that makes your clothes stick to your skin, and we were sprawled across my bed and the floor, passing around a bowl of popcorn. It was me, Kayla, Jess, and Tara, my closest friends since middle school. We were restless, the kind of restless that comes from being stuck in a town where nothing ever happens. So, we did what we always did, told stories to scare each other. Kayla had just finished some half-baked tale about a ghost in her grandma's attic when I remembered something I'd stumbled across a few nights earlier. My laptop was balanced on my knees, the screen casting a pale glow across the room. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The memory of that night still made my stomach twist, but I wanted to impress them, to prove I could tell a story that'd leave them wide-eyed. So I started talking. A couple of nights ago, I'd been scrolling through a random forum, one of those sketchy corners of the internet you end up in when you're bored at 2 a.m. That's when I found a link, just a string of numbers and letters, no description, posted by some anonymous user. It was titled Room 4. I don't know why I clicked it, maybe because it was so vague, or maybe because I was too tired to think twice. The link took me to a live stream, a grainy feed from a fixed camera in what looked like an empty room. The walls were bare, maybe concrete, and the lighting was so dim I could barely make out the edges of the space. In the far corner there was a figure, motionless, hunched, like someone sitting with their knees pulled up to their chest. No face, no features, just a dark shape blending into the shadows. At first, I thought it was a prank, some art project or a creepy ARG meant to spook people. The chat window on the side of the stream was active though, and that's what kept me watching. People were typing things like, "Wait for minute 13," or "Don't look into its eyes." I rolled my eyes, thinking it was just a bunch of trolls hyping each other up, but the comments kept coming, cryptic and weirdly specific. "It knows when you're watching," one said. "Close your laptop at 12:59, said another. I checked the timer on the stream. It was at 10 minutes and 47 seconds. I told my friends how I'd kept watching, even though something about the setup made my skin prickle. The figure didn't move, not at all, but the image would flicker every few seconds, like a bad connection. There was no sound, just this oppressive silence that made me hyper-aware of my own breathing. I'd turned off my room's lights to see the screen better, and the darkness around me felt heavier, like it was pressing in. Then, at exactly 12 minutes and 30 seconds, the figure twitched. It was subtle, just a slight shift of its head, but it was enough to make my heart lurch. I told myself it was edited, some pre-recorded loop, but then it moved again, slowly unfolding its limbs like it was waking up. It didn't have a face, at least not one I could see. The head was just a smudge, like a glitch in the video, even as the rest of the body came into sharper focus. My friends were leaning in now, their faces caught between skepticism and unease. Kayla muttered something about how I was making it up, but I could tell she was hooked. I kept going, describing how the figure started crawling toward the camera, its movements jerky and deliberate, like it was dragging itself across the floor. The chat exploded with messages, some in languages I couldn't read, others just strings of random characters. Then, out of nowhere, my webcam light flicked on, that little green dot on my laptop glowing without me touching anything. I froze, staring at it, my reflection barely visible in the screen's glare. I hadn't opened any programs, hadn't clicked anything that would have activated it. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was a glitch, but then a new message appeared in the chat. It was my name. My full name. First, middle, last. Below it, my address, down to the apartment number. I lived in a duplex with my mom, a place so unremarkable I'd never told anyone online where I was from. My hands went cold and I slammed the laptop shut, my heart hammering so hard I thought I'd puke. When I opened it again a few seconds later, the stream was gone, just a blank page with an error message. But the webcam light stayed on. Tara asked what I did next, her voice quiet, like she wasn't sure she wanted to know. I told them I unplugged the laptop, yanked the battery out, and shoved it under my bed like that would somehow make it go away. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house, every shadow in my room, felt like it was watching me. I kept thinking about that figure, the way it moved, the way it seemed to know I was there. The next morning, I checked the forum where I'd found the link. The post was gone, like it had never existed. I tried searching for Room 4 on every platform I could think of, but there was nothing. Just dead ends. My friends were silent for a moment, the popcorn bowl forgotten on the floor. Jess said she didn't believe me, but her voice was shaky, and she kept glancing at my laptop like it might turn on by itself. I didn't blame her. I didn't want to touch it either. But the story wasn't over, and I hadn't told them the worst part. A few days after the stream, I started noticing things. Little things at first. My phone would buzz with notifications from apps I hadn't used in weeks. Messages with no sender, just random strings of numbers. Once, I got a text that was just a photo of my street, taken from across the road, the angle low like someone was crouching. I showed it to my mom, but she brushed it off, said it was probably a prank from someone at school. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had found me. The duplex felt different after that, like the air was heavier, like the walls were listening. I'd catch myself staring at the corner of my room at night, half expecting to see that faceless figure from the stream. Then about a week later, I got an email. No subject, no sender name, just a single line. Room 4 is always open. There was a link attached, the same string of numbers and letters as before. I didn't click it. I deleted the email, cleared my inbox, and turned off my phone for the rest of the day. But that night, I woke up to the sound of my laptop humming. It was on, the screen glowing faintly under my bed where I'd left it. I hadn't touched it in days. I crawled over, my hands shaking, and pulled it out. The browser was open to a blank page, but the webcam light was on again, and in the corner of the screen, there was a tiny pop-up window. It was the stream, the same dark room, the same figure in the corner. Only this time, it wasn't moving. It was just sitting there, its head tilted like it was looking right at me. I told my friends how I'd screamed, waking up my mom, who came running into my room. She didn't see the stream, she just saw me, hysterical, pointing at a blank screen. The laptop had shut off the second I touched it, like it was taunting me. I didn't tell her about the stream or the figure. I just said I'd had a nightmare. But I stopped using my laptop after that. I borrowed Kayla's old tablet for schoolwork, kept my phone on airplane mode most of the time. I didn't want to be connected anymore. Not to the internet, not to anything that could find me. My friends didn't know what to say. Tara suggested it was just a hacker, someone messing with me, but even she didn't sound convinced. Jess kept asking if I'd told the police, but what was I supposed to say? That I'd watched a creepy live stream and now I thought something was stalking me? I'd sound unhinged. Kayla just stared at the floor, her fingers picking at the hem of her shirt. They didn't stay much longer after that. The sleepover ended early, everyone claiming they were tired, but I knew they were spooked. I didn't mind. I wanted to be alone. In the weeks that followed, things got quieter, but not in a good way. The notifications stopped and I didn't get any more emails. But I'd still wake up some nights, my heart racing, certain I'd heard something. A faint shuffle, like footsteps on the carpet, or a tap against my window. I started keeping my curtains drawn, even during the day. My mom noticed I was acting weird, but I brushed her off, said it was just school stress. I didn't want to drag her into it. She had enough to deal with, working double shifts at the hospital. One night, maybe a month later, I was walking home from the library. It was late, the streets empty, the air crisp with the first hint of fall. I'd started avoiding my phone, so I didn't have it with me, just my library books tucked under my arm. The streetlights were flickering, which wasn't unusual in our town, but it made the shadows feel alive, stretching and twisting across the pavement. I was halfway down my block when I saw it, a figure standing under the streetlight across from my house. It was too far to make out details, but it was tall, motionless, just a dark shape against the light. I stopped, my breath catching in my throat. It didn't move, didn't wave, didn't do anything. It just stood there. I told myself it was a neighbor, maybe someone waiting for a ride. But I couldn't shake the memory of that stream, the way the figure had crawled toward the camera, its head a featureless blur. I turned and took the long way around the block, cutting through a neighbor's yard to get to my back door. When I looked out my window later, the figure was gone. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on my bed, with my knees pulled up, listening to the house settle. I never saw the figure again, not like that. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I'll catch a flicker in my peripheral vision, like something moving just out of sight. I don't use my laptop anymore, and I've switched to a flip phone, the kind that can't connect to the internet. My friends don't bring up the story I told them, and I don't either. We've drifted a bit since then, maybe because they think I'm paranoid, or maybe because they're scared too. I don't know. What I do know is that I check my locks twice every night. I don't go on forums anymore, don't click random links. But sometimes, when I'm walking home and the streetlights flicker, I feel it, that same heavy, watchful silence from the stream, and I wonder if room 4 is still out there, waiting for someone else to click. The summer I turned 17, Duluth's air hung thick with the kind of stillness that made you feel like the world was holding its breath. It was 2012, and I was itching for something to break the monotony of small-town Minnesota life, where the days blurred into a cycle of school, sleep, and the hum of cicadas outside my window. My bedroom was a cluttered cave of thrift store furniture, old band posters, and a beat-up Dell desktop that groaned like it was on its last legs. My name's Ethan, and back then, I was just another teenager chasing distractions online, losing hours to forums and grainy YouTube clips about unsolved mysteries and internet oddities. That's how I stumbled onto the deep web, a place that felt like a locked door begging to be opened. It wasn't a grand plan. I was bored, clicking through Reddit threads about hidden internet corners, when I found a post about Tor. The poster described it like a secret club, a place where the internet shed its shiny surface and showed its underbelly. Sites that didn't show up on Google, places where you could find anything if you knew where to look. I wasn't looking for trouble, just something to jolt me out of the dull routine. So, I downloaded Tor, fumbled through the setup, and dove in. The browser was slow, clunky, like stepping into a dusty attic filled with forgotten things. I clicked through links, most of them broken or leading to sketchy marketplaces peddling stuff I didn't want to touch. Counterfeit IDs, weird PDFs, cryptic chat rooms. But then I found a site that caught my eye, a bare page with a single link to something called The Threshold. It called itself an interactive game, promising an experience that would blur the line between player and played. All it asked for was access to my webcam and microphone. My gut tightened, but curiosity was stronger. I clicked Allow. The game started innocently. A black screen with white text asked for my name. I typed Ethan, fingers hovering, half expecting a jump scare. It asked for my city, Duluth. Simple enough. The screen flickered, and a low hum started, faint, like a fluorescent light about to give out. The questions got weirder. What's the worst thing you've ever done? What do you dream about when you're alone? I laughed, nervous, typing vague answers. I'd swiped a candy bar from the gas station once, and yeah, I sometimes dreamed about falling, endless and slow. The hum grew louder, syncing with my pulse, and the questions turned sharp. What are you most afraid of? Not spiders or heights, but the deep stuff, the kind you bury. I froze, hands sweaty. I typed being watched, because that's what hit me. The uneasy feeling I got walking home late from the gas station where I worked weekends, the sense of eyes in the dark. The screen went black, then flashed one word. Good. My heart slammed against my ribs. I shut the laptop, unplugged it, and shoved it under my bed. The next morning, I tried to laugh it off. It was just a creepy game, probably some hacker's prank to mess with bored kids. But my room felt off, like the air was too heavy, the shadows too sharp. My webcam's green light blinked once, then went dark. I slapped electrical tape over it, telling myself I was overreacting. At the gas station, I was jittery, spilling soda on the counter while a regular, an old guy named Carl, asked if I was okay. I mumbled something about not sleeping, but his stare lingered, like he saw something I didn't. I kept glancing Cece at the security camera above the register, half expecting it to swivel toward me, its lens glinting like an unblinking eye. That night, my computer turned itself on. I was half asleep when I heard the fan whir and saw the screens glow. Heart pounding, I stumbled over and found the browser open to a blank page. No URL, no text, just a faint hum from the speakers. I shut it down, checked the power cord, even unplugged the router. But the hum didn't stop. It was in the walls now, a low drone pulsing with my breath. I told myself it was the house. Old pipes, bad wiring, but it didn't sound mechanical. It sounded alive, like something breathing just out of sight. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the hum weaving into the creaks of the house, making every noise feel like a step closer. Over the next few days, things got worse. My phone started acting up, apps opening on their own, especially the camera. Once it snapped a photo while I was brushing my teeth, the flash blinding me in the mirror. The picture showed my face, but the background was wrong. Too dark, like the bathroom had swallowed the light. I deleted it, hands shaking. At night, I'd hear footsteps in the gravel driveway, soft crunches that stopped when I peeked through the blinds. Nothing but the neighbor's cat staring from the fence, its eyes catching the streetlight like tiny moons. My mom noticed I was off, asked if I was stressed about college apps. I didn't tell her about the game. How could I explain something that sounded like a bad horror movie? I started keeping a pocket knife under my pillow, not that it would help against whatever this was. I started avoiding my room, picking up extra shifts at the gas station. But the feeling followed me. Customers I didn't recognize lingered too long at the counter, their faces familiar in a way I couldn't pin down. One guy, skinny with a gray beanie, came in every night for a week, buying nothing, just staring at the chip aisle before leaving. I mentioned him to my coworker, Sarah, and she frowned, said she hadn't seen anyone like that. I started wondering if the game had planted something in my head, twisting how I saw the world. The hum was everywhere now, a low thrum in my ears even when I was outside, like it was coming from inside me. It would spike when I passed certain places, the alley behind the gas station, the empty lot by the library, like the air itself was charged with it. One night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, 30 seconds of static, undercut by that same hum. I blocked the number, but another call came the next night, then another. I stopped answering my phone. My dreams turned dark, blurry images of a cramped room, a figure just out of sight, the hum vibrating in my chest. I'd wake up gasping, my room too quiet, like the silence was waiting for something to break it. I started sleeping with the lights on, checking the locks twice, 3 times, before bed. My mom caught me once, asked what was wrong. I said it was just stress, but her worried look stayed with me, her hand lingering on my shoulder like she could feel the weight I was carrying. I confided in my friend Jake, the only guy I knew who'd messed with tech beyond gaming. Over burgers at a diner, I told him about the threshold, skipping the weirder parts. He laughed, said it was probably a creepy RG, an internet stunt to freak people out. But when I mentioned the webcam access, his face tightened. He said I should wipe my hard drive, maybe ditch the computer. "You don't know what you let in," he said, his voice low. I nodded, but I didn't tell him the laptop was still under my bed, unplugged, because I was too scared to touch it. Jake offered to take a look, but I brushed him off, saying I'd handle it. I didn't want him near it, didn't want anyone else to feel that hum. Things started bleeding into my daily life. At the gas station, the cash register would glitch, spitting out receipts with random strings of numbers, like coordinates or code. I'd find my work apron moved, hanging on the wrong hook, though no one admitted to touching it. Sarah started giving me odd looks, like I was the one acting strange. Maybe I was. I wasn't sleeping, and the hum was constant, a low buzz that made my teeth ache. I started noticing the gray beanie guy outside of work, across the street from the diner at the edge of the park, always too far to be sure. Once I tried to follow him, but he slipped around a corner and was gone, like he'd never been there. I stopped telling Sarah about him after she suggested I see a counselor, her voice soft but edged with pity. One afternoon, I found a scrap of paper in my backpack, folded tight. It wasn't a note, just a sketch of a door, rough and smudged, like it was drawn in charcoal. It wasn't mine, and I hadn't shown anyone my bag. I tore it up, threw it in the dumpster behind the gas station, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I started avoiding the house altogether, staying late at work or crashing at the library until it closed. But even there, I'd feel it. That sense of being watched. The hum creeping into my headphones when I tried to listen to music. My phone would open to maps, zooming to a spot by Lake Superior, a clearing I'd never been to but recognized from my dreams. No label, just a pin, pulsing like a beacon. I started checking my reflection in every window, every mirror, half expecting to see that shadow again, the one that didn't belong. The hum would spike sometimes, sharp and sudden, like it was reacting to my fear. I'd catch myself holding my breath, waiting for it to pass, but it always came back, a reminder that I wasn't alone. The breaking point came a week later. I was alone, my mom working the night shift at the hospital. I was watching TV, trying to drown out the hum, when the power flickered. The screen went dark, and in the reflection, I saw something move, a shape in the corner of the room, gone when I turned. My phone buzzed, showing a live feed from my webcam. Even though the laptop was off, it showed my room, my desk, the chair I was sitting in, but I wasn't there. The chair was empty, and something moved in the background, a shadow that didn't match anything in the room. I threw the phone across the couch, grabbed my keys, and bolted to my car. I drove to Jake's, hands shaking so bad I could barely steer. Jake let me crash on his couch, didn't ask too many questions. The next day, we wiped my laptop, reformatted everything. I sold it at a pawn shop, got a cheap burner phone, and swore off the internet for a while. The hum stopped, mostly, but sometimes, late at night, I'd hear it again, faint, like it was coming from inside my head. I moved out of Duluth a year later for college, hoping distance would help. It didn't. I'd catch glimpses of that gray beanie guy in crowds, always too far to be sure. My new laptop would sometimes boot up to a blank screen, the cursor blinking like it was waiting for me to type. I've never gone back to the deep web. I don't talk about the threshold, not even with Jake. But I still check my webcam's light, tape it over every night. I walk faster when I'm alone, always looking over my shoulder. That spot by Lake Superior, the clearing from my dreams, ringed with pines, a patch of dirt by the water. I've driven by it a few times. It's nothing special, just a quiet place where the wind carries the smell of lake water. But I never stop. I don't know what I'd find if I did, what might be waiting for me to step across the threshold again. The wind howled outside my London flat, rattling the windows as I typed the Onion address into Tor, my hands unsteady from too much coffee and too little sleep. The city's usual buzz had faded into an eerie hush, the kind that made every creak of the old building feel like a warning. I'd always been a tinkerer, pushing code to its limits, chasing the thrill of unraveling systems. A week earlier, a buried thread on a hacker subreddit had caught my eye. A cryptic post about a deep website called Verum Lux, promising to reveal the truth behind the world. The vagueness was a hook I couldn't ignore. As a freelancer scraping by on coding gigs, I lived for puzzles. But this one felt like it was daring me to look too closely. The site loaded sluggishly, a black page with a single play button pulsing faintly, like a distant signal. No title, no navigation, just that button, glowing against the void. I'd triple-checked my VPN, anonymized my setup, and disconnected my webcam for good measure. Still, my chest tightened as I clicked. The stream flickered on, showing a dim room with rough, stained walls, lit by an unseen source. A figure stood in the center, motionless, wearing a white mask that seemed to drink in the light. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, blank surface that felt like it was staring through me. The silence was heavy, broken only by my laptop's faint hum. I couldn't tear my eyes away. A chat window sat empty beside the stream. I hesitated, then typed, "Hello?" More out of instinct than intent. The message appeared, but nothing happened. Then, without warning, text flashed in the chat. "Lucia, why are you here?" My name, my real name, not my alias, glowed in cold white text. My breath caught. I hadn't shared my name anywhere. Not in the forums, not on Tor. My VPN should have masked everything. Panic surged, and I slammed my laptop shut, the sound sharp in the quiet flat. My hands shook as I unplugged the power cord, dropping it twice. The shadows in the room felt too deep, the air too still. I checked the locks, the windows, even the hallway, half expecting that mask to be waiting. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay on the couch, the city's faint glow seeping through the curtains, every creak making me flinch. When I finally drifted off, nightmares swallowed me. I was in a maze of concrete tunnels, the air damp and metallic, my footsteps echoing. Behind me, the masked figure followed, slow but relentless, whispering my name in a low, distorted hum. Lucia. Lucia. I woke screaming, sweat-soaked, the clock reading 4:03 a.m. I turned on every light, checked every corner, but the feeling of being watched clung to me like damp fabric. Work was a disaster the next day. I tried debugging a client's app, but my code was riddled with errors. My focus shattered. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting something in the empty flat. Over coffee, I told my friend Mia I'd seen something creepy online, keeping it vague. She laughed, said I was too deep in weird internet land. I forced a smile, but her words didn't help. That night, the nightmare returned, sharper. The tunnels were tighter, the air colder, the figure closer, its mask gleaming like wet porcelain. I woke, throat raw, and for a moment, I thought I saw a shadow shift across my bedroom wall. Too tall to be mine. I wiped my laptop the next morning, reinstalled the OS, changed every password, switched VPNs. It had to be a hack, I told myself. Some script that scraped an old account. But the nightmares didn't stop. Each one felt more vivid, the figure's voice clearer, its mask now etched with faint, jagged lines. I started seeing things during the day. A flicker in my vision, a hum from my laptop when it was off. Walking home from the tube, I swore I saw someone under a streetlight, motionless, face hidden by a hood. When I blinked, they were gone. Desperate, I booked a therapist. Dr. Carter's office smelled of lavender, her voice calm and grounding. I told her about the nightmares, avoiding the deep web details. I said I'd seen something unsettling online, that it was haunting me. She asked about my life, freelancing, unstable gigs, my habit of chasing rabbit holes. She suggested stress-induced dreams, amplified by isolation, and prescribed a mild sedative. I nodded, but I didn't mention the mask's pulse in my dreams, or how my name in that chat felt like a violation. I left her office slightly lighter, but unconvinced. The sedatives dulled the nightmares, but didn't stop them. The tunnels morphed into my flat, same creaky floorboards, same peeling paint. The figure was closer each night, its mask cracked, like it was splintering to reveal something beneath. I stopped sleeping unless exhaustion forced me under, living on energy drinks and podcasts to drown out the silence. My flat felt wrong, the air thick, the shadows heavy. I found scratches on my desk, faint but deliberate, forming a pattern I couldn't read. My phone's camera turned on once, unprompted, the lens staring until I shut it off. I taped over it, then my laptop's webcam. I went back to the deep web, desperate for answers. The Verum Lux link was gone, the forum a blank page. Other threads mentioned streams that see you, warnings about sites that know too much. One post from a nameless user said, "If they use your name, they're already inside." My stomach twisted. I disconnected everything, sitting in the dark, the city's hum no longer soothing. The nightmares worsened. The figure's voice grew louder, its mask a fractured mess, glinting with something wet and dark. I stopped going out, ignored Mia's calls, told clients I was sick. In my last session with Dr. Carter, I spilled everything. The stream, the mask, my name in the chat. She didn't call it a delusion, just listened, her pen still. She asked if I'd considered a real-world explanation, a targeted hack, maybe someone messing with me. The idea was almost comforting, a problem I could fight. She suggested a police report, but what could I say? That a faceless figure knew my name? I left feeling exposed, her words heavy. I stopped sleeping entirely, the sedatives untouched. The nightmares were too vivid, the figure too close. Last night I found a scratch on my door, thin and jagged, like the mask's cracks. My phone buzzed with a notification from an unknown app. "You can't hide, Lucia." I'm typing this on my phone, the flat silent except for a faint creak from the hallway. Every shadow feels alive, but I'm too afraid to look. The days blurred into a haze of caffeine and dread. I started keeping a notebook, not for dreams like Dr. Carter suggested, but for everything. Times I heard creaks, moments my devices acted strange, descriptions of the scratches. Writing it down made it feel manageable, like I could trap the fear on paper. But the notebook filled quickly, pages crowded with shaky handwriting. I noticed the scratches weren't just on my desk or door, they appeared on the kitchen counter, the bathroom mirror, faint but precise, always in that same cracked pattern. I took photos, but when I checked them, the scratches were gone, the surfaces clean. My phone's storage was filling with images of nothing. I tried reaching out to Mia again, texting her a vague apology for going silent. She called, her voice sharp with worry, and I admitted I wasn't okay, that I'd gotten into something online I couldn't shake. She offered to come over, but I said no, terrified of what she might see, or what might see her. After we hung up, my phone vibrated with another notification. "Why did you tell her, Lucia?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't mentioned the stream to Mia, not by name, not even close. I deleted the app, but it reappeared the next day, icon blank, notifications relentless. "You're still here." I smashed my phone against the counter, the screen cracking, but it buzzed again, the message glowing through the shattered glass. I moved my mattress to the living room, avoiding my bedroom where the scratches felt most oppressive. Sleep came in fits, each nightmare dragging me deeper into the tunnels, now indistinguishable from my flat. The figure's mask was barely a mask anymore, shattered, leaking a dark, viscous fluid that pooled around its feet. Its voice wasn't a whisper now, but a hiss. My name repeated like a taunt. I woke to find my hands shaking, my nails caked with dirt I couldn't explain. The flat smelled wrong, like damp stone, like the air in my dreams. I checked the windows, the locks, but everything was secure. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that something had been inside. I stopped answering emails, let my freelance contracts lapse. The world outside felt too exposed, every stranger a potential threat. I ordered groceries online, but when the delivery arrived, the bag had a faint scratch on the plastic, the same pattern as the others. I threw it out uneaten and lived off instant noodles. Dr. Carter called, leaving a voicemail about missed appointments, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What could I say that wouldn't sound unhinged? Instead, I spent hours staring at my notebook, trying to decode the scratches, searching for a pattern that might explain it all. I found nothing but my own spiraling thoughts. Last night, the power flickered, plunging the flat into darkness. My phone's screen lit up on its own, the cracked display showing a single image, the masked figure, standing in what looked like my hallway, its head tilted. I dropped the phone. My scream caught in my throat. The lights came back on, and the image was gone. The phone dead. I haven't touched it since. The scratches are everywhere now. On the walls, the floor, even my skin. Faint red lines I don't remember making. I'm typing this on an old tablet I found in a drawer, the battery barely holding. The creaks in the hallway are louder, rhythmic, like footsteps pacing just out of sight. I don't know if it's real, if it's here, or if it's been here all along, waiting for me to notice. The rain-slicked streets outside my Philadelphia apartment gleamed under flickering streetlights, their hum a faint pulse in the quiet night. I was sprawled on my couch, laptop on my knees, the screen's glow slicing through the dimness of my cluttered living room. By day, I was a barista, slinging coffee for bleary-eyed office workers, but at night, I fed my obsession with the macabre, creepy forums, unsolved mysteries, stories that made your skin crawl. A few nights ago, I'd stumbled onto a deep web thread via Tor, buried in cryptic posts. It mentioned a video called "Don't Watch Until the End," with warnings so dire they felt like a challenge. Don't click. Don't finish. Walk away. My curiosity, sharp and stubborn, wouldn't let it go. I knew the deep web was a minefield. Scams, malware, worse. But the promise of something truly unsettling was too much to resist. I'd set up safeguards. VPN on, Tor locked tight, no trace of my real identity. The link loaded slowly, spitting out a black page with a video player and the title in jagged red text. My pulse quickened. The streetlights buzzed, syncing with my nerves as I hovered over the play button. I clicked. The video was a disorienting blur. Grainy shots of a subway station, a dark alley, a bar packed with faceless figures. Then came images that hit like a punch. My apartment building's stoop, the coffee shop counter where I worked, a body crumpled on wet pavement, blood seeping into cracks. The scenes flashed too fast to process, each one tightening the knot in my chest. No audio, just a thrumming static that burrowed into my skull. The final frame froze on a wristwatch. Mine, down to the scuff on the band from a skateboarding fall years ago. Its hands stuck at 247. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath shallow, the room icy. I didn't sleep that night. I paced, the floor creaking, the rain's beat amplifying every sound. I told myself it was a trick, a deep web gimmick, maybe a script that scraped old social media posts. I'd been careless before, reusing passwords, skipping security on old accounts. But the watch, the stoop, too specific. Morning came, and I was a mess, my coffee cold as I stared at my closed laptop. I dragged myself to work, but the day felt wrong. A regular at the shop, a guy in a gray hoodie, stared too long, his eyes blank but piercing, like he saw something I didn't. My coworker, Lena, noticed me drop a tray and asked if I was okay. I muttered about a rough night, but her concern didn't ease the chill in my spine. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You finished it." My stomach lurched. I deleted it, but another came. "It's begun." I blocked the numbers, but they kept coming. "Don't look back." I powered off my phone, hands trembling, and focused on cleaning the espresso machine, its hiss drowning my thoughts. Back home, my apartment felt off. My keys were on the kitchen table, not the hook by the door. A mug I'd broken months ago, or thought I had, was in the sink, chipped but whole, water pooling inside. I checked the locks, windows, every shadow. Nothing was amiss, but the air felt heavy, holding its breath. Dreams ambushed me that night. I was running through an alley, the one from the video, rain stinging my face, the smell of wet asphalt choking me. A figure loomed behind, faceless, holding a cracked watch. I woke gasping, my watch glowing 2:47, the room thick with damp pavement scent. I checked my phone, still off, but when I turned it on, a new message waited. "You're part of it now." I ripped out the battery and stuffed the phone in a drawer, my heart hammering. The next day, reality frayed. At work, a customer left a receipt with "Until the End" scrawled in shaky ink. I tossed it, telling myself it was nothing, but Lena caught me staring at the trash and asked again if I was okay. I shrugged it off, but her worried glance lingered. That night, my laptop was on when I got home, the screen dark but warm, like it had been running. I'd unplugged it after the video. I wiped the drive, reinstalled everything, and took my router to the alley, smashing it with a brick until it was plastic shards and twisted metal. The acrid smell of burning circuits clung to my hands, but it didn't feel like enough. The dreams grew sharper, me in the alley, a car's headlights blinding, the watch ticking down. I woke to wet shoes by my door, though I hadn't gone out. The world kept slipping. My apartment became a maze of disruptions. Books flipped open, a window unlatched, the faint smell of burnt coffee where none should be. I avoided the alley from the video, taking long detours to the shop, but the city felt alive with eyes. A woman on the subway stared, her gaze heavy, unblinking, until I bolted at my stop. My burner phone buzzed. "You can't outrun it." I smashed it, but a new one appeared in my mailbox, powered on, with a single text. "Look behind you." I didn't. I kept the blinds shut, lights blazing. Work became impossible. Texted Lena. I was sick, ignoring her calls. Notes appeared. Scraps in my bag, pockets, scrawled with final frame. I burned them in the sink, the smoke stinging my eyes. I tore my apartment apart, searching for cameras, mics, anything to explain it. I found only a faint scratch on my coffee table, shaped like a cracked watch face. The dreams were relentless. Headlights, screeching tires, my body hitting the ground. I woke with dirt under my nails, my watch stuck at 2:47, its band digging into my wrist. I fought back, mapping disturbances in a notebook, times, places, messages. I sketched the alley, the watch, hoping for a pattern, but it was chaos. The city felt like a trap. Strangers' faces seemed familiar, their stares too knowing. A delivery bag had a note, "Don't fight it." I stopped ordering food, living off stale cereal. The air in my apartment grew heavy, thick with rain and oil, like the dreams. Scratches spread, on walls, floors, my arm, faint lines I didn't recall making. I started leaving voice memos on an old recorder to keep my thoughts straight. Speaking grounded me, but listening back was worse. The recordings had faint static, like the video's hum, and my voice sounded wrong, layered with a whisper not mine. I stopped going outside, the city too heavy with unseen eyes. The alley was out there, its presence seeping into my life. A note in my fridge, wedged between jars, 2:47. My watch hadn't moved, its scuff darker, like a bruise. I retraced my steps on a library computer, searching for "until the final frame." The thread was gone, the forum a dead link, but an archived comment read, "It knows where you are." My hands went cold. The scratches spread. On my doorframe, kitchen counter, mirroring the watch's cracked face. The air grew thicker, the smell of asphalt and rain constant, windows sealed. My recorder caught a rhythmic thump, like alley footsteps, though my apartment was silent. I stopped sleeping, surviving on coffee and fear. Notes multiplied, slips in my shoes under my pillow all saying "final frame." I burned them, the smoke choking me. My watch's hands wouldn't move, stuck at 2:47, the scuff now black, spreading. I found a photo in my jacket pocket, one I didn't take, me in the alley, rain-soaked, the watch gleaming. I tore it up, but the image lingered. The apartment's walls pulsed, the air heavy with the video's static hum. I tried to leave once, but the alley was at the end of my street, its shadows too familiar. I turned back, heart pounding. I started barricading my door, shoving a bookshelf against it, the wood groaning under the weight. The scratches grew more intricate, covering my mirrors, my desk, forming jagged spirals that echoed the watch's face. My recorder picked up new sounds, soft scrapes, like nails on glass, though I was alone. I stopped playing the memos, afraid of what I'd hear. The city outside was a maze of threats. Every passerby's glance felt like a warning, every car's hum a prelude to the crash in my dreams. I found a new note in my cereal box. "You're almost there." My hands shook as I burned it, the flames licking the paper black. Last night, the power flickered, plunging the room into darkness. My laptop lit up, unplugged, showing a frame. Me in the alley, blood pooling, the watch frozen at 2:47. I yanked the battery out, cutting my hand. The lights returned, the screen blank, but the room reeked of wet asphalt. I'm typing this on a library computer, my apartment too stifling. The scratches on my arm are deeper, tracing a pattern I can't decode. Outside, the alley waits, and every car's engine sounds like it's slowing.